Title: Empire of the Sun. The Rise and Fall of the Inca Civilization. Chapter 1. The Cradle of the Andes. The origins of the Inca civilization trace back to the highlands of Peru, where the rugged Andes Mountains cradle the beginnings of one of the most powerful and mysterious empires in pre-Columbian America. The Inca, or Tawantinsuyu as they called themselves, meaning the four regions together, emerged as a dominant force in the 13th century. Rooted in oral tradition and myth, the story begins with Manco Capac and Mama Oclo, the children of the sun god Inti, who rose from Lake Titicaca to civilize the Andean peoples. The mythology of the Inca is not merely a tale of divine ancestry. It served as a powerful legitimizing force for their rule. According to legend, Manco Capac and Mama Oclo were sent by Inti to bring order and enlightenment to a world mired in chaos. Emerging from the sacred waters of Lake Titicaca, they journeyed through the highlands, guided by a golden staff. Where the staff sank into the earth, they would found a city. This place was Cusco, the eventual capital of the empire. Before the rise of the Inca, the Andean region was home to a mosaic of cultures and kingdoms such as the Chavan, Moche, Nazca, Wari, and Tiwanaku civilizations. Each contributed elements that the Inca would later absorb and refine: irrigation techniques, artistic styles, religious concepts, and administrative practices. The Inca did not emerge in a vacuum but inherited a rich and complex cultural legacy. The early Inca were one among many competing tribes in the Cusco Valley. Their ascent to power was neither swift nor assured. Archaeological evidence suggests that their initial settlement was modest, and for a time they were vassals to more dominant neighbors. Over time, through a combination of shrewd diplomacy, martial prowess, and internal cohesion, the Inca began to assert dominance in the region. One critical factor in their rise was the development of a unified identity centered around divine ancestry and a unique cosmology. The Inca ruler, or Sapa Inca, was not just a king but a living god, a direct descendant of Inti. This belief created an aura of invincibility and justified the expansion of Inca rule over neighboring tribes. The Inca also practiced a form of ancestor worship, mummifying their leaders and maintaining their estates, which kept the memory and influence of former rulers alive. Geography played a crucial role in shaping the Inca worldview and society. The Andes Mountains, while formidable, provided natural fortification and diverse ecological zones. These vertical landscapes enabled the cultivation of a wide variety of crops through terracing and microclimate management. The harsh environment necessitated cooperation, resourcefulness, and adaptation, qualities that became hallmarks of Inca culture. The Inca also developed a deep spiritual connection to the land, known as Pachamama or Mother Earth. They believed that harmony with nature was essential for prosperity and that the mountains, rivers, and celestial bodies were animate and sacred. This animistic worldview informed their architecture, agriculture, and urban planning, embedding religious symbolism into the physical landscape. As the 13th century progressed, the Inca began to consolidate power under a series of increasingly ambitious leaders. These early rulers laid the groundwork for the empire's future expansion, establishing alliances, conducting reconnaissance missions, and fortifying the city of Cusco. By the time of Pacacuti's reign in the 15th century, the Inca were poised to transform from a regional power into a continental empire. Thus, the cradle of the Andes did not merely give birth to a civilization. It nurtured a vision of cosmic order, imperial destiny, and human ingenuity. The Inca would go on to reshape the Andean world, but their roots remained deeply embedded in the myths, mountains, and mysteries of their ancestral homeland. Chapter 2. The Rise of Cusco. Nestled in a fertile valley more than 11,000 feet above sea level, Cusco was much more than a political capital. It was the symbolic center of the Inca world. According to Inca cosmology, Cusco was the belly button of the earth, the axis mundi where the terrestrial and celestial worlds connected. This sacred geography was reinforced through meticulous urban planning, which placed temples, plazas, and palaces in deliberate alignment with astronomical events and sacred landscapes. The city's transformation from a modest highland village to the imperial seat began in earnest under the leadership of Inca Roca and reached its zenith with Pacacuti Inca Yupanqui, the ninth Sapa Inca. Pacacuti, often hailed as the true architect of the Inca Empire, is credited with reorganizing the state, launching expansive military campaigns, and initiating a vast building program that redefined Cusco's role in the Andes. Under Pacacuti, Cusco became a masterpiece of urban engineering. The city was laid out in the shape of a puma, a sacred animal representing strength and protection. At the heart of this design stood the Coricancha, or Temple of the Sun, the most revered religious site in the empire. Its walls were once sheathed in sheets of gold, reflecting the Inca devotion to Inti, the sun god. Surrounding it were the homes of nobility, administrative buildings, and storage houses that supported the political and spiritual life of the city. Cusco was divided into two halves, Hanan, upper, and Huron, lower, which mirrored the dualistic worldview of the Inca. Each half was further subdivided into wards aligned with the four suyus or regions of the empire, Chinchasuyu, Antisuyu, Kulasuyu, and Kuntasuyu. This division reinforced Cusco's identity as the nerve center of Tawantinsuyu, connecting it to every corner of the empire. The infrastructure developed during this period was unprecedented in the Andes. Stone masonry reached new heights, exemplified by the precision-cut stones of Sacsayhuaman, a massive fortress that overlooked the city. Despite lacking iron tools or the wheel, Inca engineers devised techniques to move and fit multi-ton stones so precisely that not even a blade of grass could slide between them. Cusco also functioned as an economic and administrative hub. Goods from across the empire, tropical fruits, coastal fish, highland potatoes, and Amazonian feathers flowed into the city. Artisans, priests, and bureaucrats worked in tandem to maintain the empire's cohesion. The presence of elite schools, or yachahuasi, underscored Cusco's role as a center of knowledge and governance. In times of war, Cusco served as a launching point for military campaigns. In times of peace, it was a ceremonial city where festivals, rituals, and processions reaffirmed the Inca's divine mandate. The annual Inti Raymi festival, held during the winter solstice, drew thousands to honor Inti with offerings, dances, and reenactments of the empire's founding myths. Even in its decline, Cusco's legacy endured. The Spanish, recognizing its importance, built their colonial city atop Inca foundations. Many modern buildings still incorporate Inca stonework, a testament to the durability and brilliance of Inca architecture. Cusco's rise was not just the story of a city. It was the material manifestation of an ideology that linked divine ancestry, sacred geography, and imperial ambition. It stood as a beacon of Inca ingenuity and remains a symbol of resilience and cultural pride in modern Peru. Chapter 3: The expansion of an empire. The Inca Empire's rapid expansion during the 15th century is one of the most remarkable feats of state-building in the ancient world. From its highland core in Cusco, the empire stretched thousands of miles across the Andes, encompassing modern-day Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, northern Chile, northwestern Argentina, and southern Colombia. The speed and scale of this expansion were extraordinary, achieved without the wheel, written script, or draft animals. The key architect of this imperial project was Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui. Under his rule, the Inca state transitioned from a powerful regional kingdom to a sprawling empire. Pachacuti's military campaigns were both swift and strategic, targeting vulnerable neighboring polities and securing key mountain passes and fertile valleys. His son, Tupac Inca Yupanqui, continued this legacy, pushing the empire's boundaries to their greatest extent. The Inca expansion was underpinned by a sophisticated administrative and logistical framework. Conquered territories were integrated into the empire through a combination of diplomacy, force, and infrastructure. Local leaders, or Caracas, were often retained in power in exchange for loyalty and tribute. In return, the Inca provided protection, roads, food security, and access to imperial festivals and trade. A cornerstone of Inca control was the Mitmac system, a policy of resettlement that moved groups of people around the empire to promote integration, loyalty, and economic efficiency. These relocated populations, or Mitmacuna, brought their skills and knowledge to new regions while also serving as cultural emissaries of the empire. The Inca road network, known as the Capacnan, was essential to the empire's cohesion. Spanning more than 25,000 miles, this system of paved roads, rope bridges, and way stations enabled rapid communication, troop movement, and transportation of goods. Chasquis, the empire's swift-footed messengers, relayed messages across the empire using a relay system that could carry information from Cusco to the coast in just a few days. Conquest also meant the imposition of Inca religion and state rituals. Temples to Inti and shrines known as huacas were built in newly conquered territories, often syncretizing local deities with Inca cosmology. Important religious items and mummies were transported to Cusco to be housed in the Coricancha or to participate in state ceremonies. The Inca also extracted tribute in the form of labor through the Mita system. Every able-bodied subject was required to provide service to the state for a portion of the year, building roads, terraces, and temples, or serving in the military. In return, the state provided food, clothing, and land for cultivation, creating a reciprocal economic system that reinforced loyalty and productivity. Despite the efficiency of Inca expansion, not all conquests were peaceful. Resistance was common, and the Inca developed a reputation for both strategic alliances and brutal reprisals. Entire populations could be relocated or punished severely if they resisted incorporation into Tawa Nti Nsuyu.by the end of Tupac Inca Yupanqui's reign. The empire stretched from the Pacific coast to the Amazon basin and from the dry deserts of northern Chile to the snowy peaks of southern Colombia. The Inca had created the largest empire ever seen in the Americas, one marked by its diversity, complexity, and cohesion. This phase of imperial expansion laid the groundwork for both the Incas' greatest achievements and their eventual vulnerability. The rapid acquisition of territory required constant management, and as the empire grew, so too did the challenges of governance. Still, the expansion of the Inca Empire remains a testament to their extraordinary vision, adaptability, and organizational genius. Chapter 4: Society, Class, and Daily Life. Beneath the grandeur of temples and the brilliance of imperial strategy lay the daily rhythms of life in the Inca Empire. Though ruled by a divine emperor and an elite class of nobles, Inca society was, at its core, a well-ordered and remarkably cooperative civilization built upon collective labor, reciprocity, and strict social hierarchy. The social structure of the Inca was highly stratified. At the top stood the Sapa Inca, considered the son of the sun, whose word was law and whose presence was both sacred and political. Below him was a noble class known as the Panica, composed of royal relatives and descendants of previous rulers. These nobles held high-ranking administrative and priestly positions and were granted large estates worked by commoners. Beneath the nobility were the commoners, or Hatan Runa, who formed the majority of the population. These individuals were organized into Ailis, kinship-based communities that shared land, labor, and responsibilities. The Aila was both an economic unit and a social institution with collective labor at its heart. Each Aila had its own leaders and internal structure but owed allegiance to the Inca state. The Aila system was critical to the empire's function. It ensured that agricultural labor, textile production, and infrastructure maintenance were carried out efficiently and fairly. Every member of an Aila contributed to community needs through the mita, or labor tax, working for a certain number of days per year on state or religious projects. This system not only supported the state but also fostered a strong sense of communal identity and interdependence. Women in Inca society played essential roles both within the household and in religious and economic life. They were responsible for child-rearing, cooking, weaving, and managing household affairs. Skilled women could be chosen as aklas, or chosen women, who lived in cloistered houses and served religious roles, weaving fine textiles and brewing chicha corn beer for state ceremonies. Some aklas were given in marriage to noblemen or sacrificed in rituals. Marriage was a practical institution arranged by families or the state to promote social cohesion and productivity. The Inca practiced trial marriages and polygamy, particularly among the elite, though monogamy was more common among the lower classes. Upon marriage, couples received land and tools from the state, reinforcing the reciprocal nature of Inca society. Education was reserved primarily for the nobility. Boys of noble lineage attended yachuasi, or houses of knowledge, where they learned history, religion, governance, and the quipu, a knotted cord system used to record information. Girls destined to become aklas were trained in religion, weaving, and domestic skills. Commoners learned through oral tradition and practical apprenticeship. The Inca were master agriculturalists. Through terracing, irrigation, and crop diversification, they transformed the Andean landscape into a patchwork of productive zones. They cultivated a wide variety of crops suited to different altitudes, including potatoes, maize, quinoa, and coca. Llamas and alpacas were domesticated for transport and wool, while guinea pigs were a primary source of protein. Religion permeated every aspect of Inca life. Daily rituals honored ancestors, deities, and natural forces. Offerings were made to the apis, or mountain spirits, and ceremonies marked seasonal cycles. Festivals such as Inti Raymi and Capac Raymi involved music, dancing, and sacrifices, reinforcing the cosmic harmony between the people, the land, and the gods. Despite its rigid hierarchy, Inca society offered stability and security. The state ensured food distribution in times of need, built extensive granaries, and maintained a road system to connect even the most remote communities. This highly organized society allowed the Inca to manage an empire of immense diversity, bridging cultures and geographies through shared systems of labor, belief, and obligation. Chapter 5. Art, Architecture, and Innovation. Inca civilization, while often remembered for its vast empire and social organization, also left behind a stunning legacy of art, architecture, and technological innovation. These achievements were not only expressions of aesthetic value but served practical, spiritual, and political purposes, embedding Inca identity deeply into the physical and cultural landscape of the Andes. Inca art was characterized by its emphasis on symmetry, simplicity, and symbolic meaning. Much of it was functional. Textiles, pottery, metalwork, and carvings were created not just for beauty but for use in everyday life, religious ceremonies, and state rituals. Textiles were particularly valued, with the finest examples woven from vicuña wool and reserved for royalty and religious figures. Patterns in textiles often conveyed social rank, geographic origin, and cosmological beliefs. Pottery, while often utilitarian, also featured elaborate geometric designs and animal motifs, particularly llamas, condors, and pumas, animals that held spiritual significance. Ceramic vessels known as arabalos were used to store and serve chicha, and their distinctive shapes became iconic throughout the empire. Metalwork showcased the Incas' advanced skills in gold, silver, and copper alloys. These materials were shaped into ceremonial knives, tumi, jewelry, masks, and figurines, many of which were buried as offerings in sacred sites. Gold was associated with Inti, the sun god, while silver symbolized the moon and fertility. Despite the glittering allure of these objects, they were often not intended for personal wealth but for state and religious functions. Perhaps the most remarkable expression of Inca ingenuity was their architecture. Without iron tools, mortar, or the wheel, Inca stonemasons achieved astonishing feats of engineering. Their signature technique, ashlar masonry, involved cutting stones so precisely that they fit together without mortar, forming structures capable of withstanding powerful earthquakes. Cusco, Machu Picchu, Ollantaytambo, and Sacsayhuaman are among the most iconic examples of Inca architectural mastery. These sites were strategically located and integrated harmoniously with the surrounding landscape. Terraces stabilized slopes and created microclimates for agriculture, while trapezoidal doors and niches provided structural stability. Many structures aligned with astronomical events, underscoring the Incas' sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Urban planning also reflected the Inca worldview. Cities were divided along cosmological lines, often mirroring constellations or forming the shapes of sacred animals. Roads, canals, and storage facilities were carefully laid out to support both the economic and ceremonial functions of urban centers. The Inca also pioneered agricultural and hydraulic innovations. They constructed terraces that reduced erosion and maximized arable land. Canals and aqueducts diverted water from mountain springs, ensuring year-round irrigation. Storage silos, or calcas, preserved food for times of scarcity and supported armies on the move. Quipus, bundles of colored, knotted strings, served as the primary method of record-keeping and communication. Trained officials called quipicamayaks could read and interpret these devices, which recorded census data, tax obligations, calendrical information, and even historical narratives. Though their exact syntax remains elusive, quipus demonstrate the Incas' capacity for complex data management without a written language. These artistic and technological achievements were not the product of isolated genius but of collective effort and intergenerational knowledge. The state played a central role in sponsoring artisans, organizing labor, and disseminating skills across the empire. Innovation was encouraged insofar as it supported the harmony and longevity of Tawantinsuyu. Inca art, architecture, and innovation stand as a testament to their vision of order, balance, and unity. Whether in a finely woven textile, an earthquake-proof temple, or a road winding through the Andes, the imprint of Inca creativity endures. These accomplishments continue to inspire admiration not only for their technical brilliance but for the worldview they embodied, one in which human enterprise was an extension of cosmic harmony. Chapter 6. Conquest and Collapse. The fall of the Inca Empire is a dramatic and tragic story of conquest, civil strife, and cultural collision. In less than a generation, one of the most sophisticated civilizations in the pre-Columbian world was brought to its knees by a small band of foreign invaders. The Spanish conquest, led by Francisco Pizarro, was not merely a military campaign. It was the culmination of both internal vulnerabilities and external forces that the Inca could neither anticipate nor withstand. At the heart of the empire's vulnerability was a succession crisis. Following the death of Huayna Capac around 1527, likely from smallpox introduced by European contact, the empire was thrust into a brutal civil war between his sons, Huáscar and Atahualpa. This dynastic struggle divided the empire along regional lines. Huáscar was supported by the nobility in Cusco while Atahualpa commanded the powerful northern armies from Quito. The resulting conflict devastated communities, weakened the central authority, and sowed distrust among the ruling elite. It was into this fractured landscape that Francisco Pizarro arrived in 1532 with fewer than 200 men. Though vastly outnumbered, the Spanish possessed advantages that would prove decisive: steel weapons, cavalry, firearms, and, perhaps most significantly, the element of surprise. Atahualpa, having just emerged victorious in the Civil War and unacquainted with European warfare, underestimated the threat posed by the Spaniards. The fateful encounter at Cajamarca would seal the empire's fate. Invited to a meeting under the pretense of diplomacy, Atahualpa was ambushed, captured, and held for ransom. In one of the most infamous episodes in colonial history, the Inca filled a room with gold and silver to secure his release. Yet despite the staggering wealth delivered to the Spaniards, Atahualpa was executed in 1533. With the divine ruler dead, the Inca world was thrown into chaos. Though resistance continued, most notably under Manco Inca Yupanqui, who led a prolonged rebellion from the mountain stronghold of Vilcabamba, the empire's cohesion unraveled. Spanish forces, aided by rival indigenous groups and emboldened by their plunder, pushed deeper into Inca territory, dismantling its institutions and imposing colonial rule. The conquest was not solely a military endeavor but a cultural and spiritual upheaval. Spanish missionaries sought to eradicate Inca religion, replacing temples with churches and suppressing native ceremonies. Quipus were burned, sacred sites desecrated, and ancestral mummies destroyed. The Spanish imposed new systems of taxation, labor, and governance, fundamentally altering Andean life. Yet even amid conquest, traces of resistance and adaptation endured. Inca traditions survived through syncretism, with Andean gods reinterpreted within Catholic frameworks and ancient rituals practiced under the guise of Christian festivals. The memory of the Inca lived on in oral traditions, folk art, and the enduring pride of indigenous communities. The fall of the Inca Empire was not a simple tale of superior force overcoming a weaker foe. It was a complex convergence of internal division, foreign disease, technological disparity, and cultural misunderstanding. In a matter of years, a civilization that had mastered the mountains and ruled over millions was overtaken by a few hundred adventurers seeking fortune and glory, and yet the legacy of the Inca remains. Their language, Quechua, is still spoken by millions. Their roads, terraces, and temples continue to shape the Andean landscape. And their vision of order, community, and cosmic harmony endures in the traditions of the descendants who carry their spirit forward.